lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on it.
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
We are under the lights this evening in the Sunflower State, live for the Kansas Speedway. It is the penultimate round, race 17 on a Season 2 championship for the LionHeart IndyCar Series, presented by Overdrive Graphics and Sim Posters tonight. Good evening, sim racing fans, high atop the Kansas Speedway and the Global Sim Racing Channel broadcast booth. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, is Sean Ambrose this evening. Our director is Amjad Yamad. Our camera sets are provided by Dougie Beard. We're under the lights. It's another Wednesday evening for racing, but this is a very different championship than what it was when we were last with you with this LionHeart IndyCar Series. Sean Ambrose bringing it to you. A lot has gone down. A lot of exciting action has gone down. Tonight not going to be any different, but there's one spot that nobody's fighting for, and that's atop the pile.
Yeah, it looks like Jesse Vincent's going home with the championship. He's all but locked it up here as we go into round 17 here. We've had some great races since we've been away. They've been to New Hampshire, been to Pocono, been to Gateway, where Corey Connor finally got a win, a hard-fought win last week, 120 laps there at Gateway. But yeah, there are still lots of points at stake in this championship, though, Evan. Lots of positions to be gained and lost. Honestly, when you get to looking at the points, you see third back through. What is it here? Let's see. No, I'm sorry. Sixth back through about 10th is really could be anybody's. Outside the top five there, anything could change. But Jesse Vincent, 136 points up in the chase, looks to be our winner for the season. And but tonight, man, we're going to have a wicked fast race here. This place drives a lot like Atlanta and is going to be super fast.
We should note that this is not the race yet. This is practice session that these guys are giving it 110% at, but that is exactly what we expect to see tonight with almost, again, a full field as we've seen all season long. 21 cars right on par with what we're used to seeing so far, putting down a time in practice. And it's Dan Garens, the brake machine atop the pile, and right now at the bottom of the standings is Adam Plunkett. All the way through, the big names are here. Your champion that has locked this thing up since we were last with you, Sean, you just talked about it there, Jesse Vincent. 136 to the good, and the team hashtag nailed it entry pretty safe with 2 races to go, officially locking it up. We're not going to give him the hardware until next week, so he'll have to hold on until Auto Club Speedway before he gets that. So tonight we roll through round 17 of 18 on this Season 2 championship of the LionHeart IndyCar Series. We're so glad to have you with us on this Wednesday evening. Trying to know we're happy to be back at it, getting these DW12s back out on track at a high-speed oval. Tonight on tap, 100 laps around the 1.5-mile Kansas Speedway for the Hollywood Casino 150. We know it is going to be exciting. This is a track that really doesn't work the way it should. With stock cars, you got to go up against the fence, but boy, do these DW12s work like a beauty around this place.
Man, they sure do. You really do have 4 to 5 lanes of racing on this track, and you will see them push these cars to the limits tonight. You will see plenty of 3 wide, 4 wide, possibly even 5 wide in some extreme situations where they're grabbing a little bit of that apron coming across the front stretch. Now, the apron will be in play for qualifying, but the league admins has said that they don't want to use during the race unless we're getting near the checkered flag. So, that should be interesting to see how that plays out. You know, another thing that's going to be interesting this evening, your fuel window is going to be about 30 laps or so, somewhere between, let's say, 28 and 32. Your tires can definitely make it that far, as this track is not very aggressive on the tires unless you're running down there in that low line near the white stripe all night. You can save the tires here, so we may see a fuel war erupt if they get into a nice green flag run like they did in their practice race last night, Evan.
And first checkered flag at evening flies as the 2-hour, 30-minute open practice session has come to a close. And Now it's time to do business. 2-lap solo car qualifying in a 5-minute time frame to set the grid for tonight's Hollywood Casino 150. Let's talk a little bit about this Kansas Speedway, located in Kansas City, Kansas, has a capacity crowd of 72,000 race fans that can pack into this facility. We're under the lights tonight. The Speedway is owned and operated by the ISC, the International Speedway Corporation. Fairly new facility, broke ground in '99 and opened 2 years later in 2001. Hosts NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, Xfinity Series, Camping World action, as well as ARCA Racing. But we got open wheel tonight on the iRacing.com sim. The track itself, the Tri-Oval, sits at 1.5 miles in length, so right on par with all of your intermediate racetracks, and we have seen a couple of them this year, and all of them have a little bit different characteristics. Well, this track going to have a fair amount of grip tonight under the lights and a cool track temperature to accommodate that. All the way around here, 17 to 20 degrees of banking. Now, Sean, we talked about how the stock cars have to go up the wall because it's 20 up there, 17 down low, but these cars have significantly more grip. The speeds are significantly higher, going flat out all the way around this facility. You got 9 to 11 degrees of banking on the backstretch, 5 as well on the back, and it's 9 to 11 actually on the front straightaway, but that 7 to 20 degrees of banking rather in 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4. That's what gives it that little bit more racing groove in these cars as opposed to some racetracks where, you know, it's even all the way around. You can force it, but you might get caught up in the situation of a wall of air. That just 3-4 degree variance, which on paper really isn't a lot, makes a huge difference, and that is the characteristic that separates this intermediate speedway from all the other ones that we've seen so far.
And let me tell you about the draft model here, okay? And this is something we talk about here in iRacing, is the draft model on these cars, the Gen 6s, what have you. Man, you will suck up quick to the guy in front of you. And I mean, you will get a major run, especially coming all the way through that front stretch and heading into one. If you're tracking somebody, you better be willing to make a move, because if you don't, you're going to go straight into that car in front of you, and it's not going to be good for that person or yourself. But they get an incredible run up in the draft, so that will be something to watch all night. You're going to see guys slingshotting each other all night, trying to gain up ground on the cars or the packs in front of them. So that will definitely come into play. Another thing that's going to be really tricky here tonight when we talk about the characteristics of this track, the entrance to the pits is a real trick here. With the wide racing surface and everybody running different lines, you're going to have to be real picky choosy about how you get into that pit lane tonight on a green flag, because there's it's real easy to mess up, and it's, depending on, you could start on 3, but you could start that pit going into 3, but I think everybody's going to probably try and cut that off a bit and try and get off that track somewhere in the middle of the turn, and that could be a problem.
And let's talk about Indianapolis. Now, that doesn't seem like something that makes much sense when we're at the Kansas Speedway, but the official iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 for the 6th annual time has been on the sim this past week, and when you look at some of the names here, I was just looking at some of our race facts right now. The fastest qual run of the week so far has been put down by Dan Guerin with a 24.5. Not sure if we're going to see that right now with the weather conditions that we've been dealt for this race, Sean, but there's a lot of names in here that have taken home some checkered flags outside of this series and on the official side of things this past week.
Yeah, in fact, it was a big weekend for the LionHeart IndyCar Series and the official iRacing Indy 500 races. Big Joe Hassert took home a big win and a second place in another race, and John Downing from Sim Posters took home the second place in the race he ran, and the big winner of the weekend was Pierre Deigel, our Canadian friend. Won twice. 2 Indy 500 wins, and a lot of milk. Consumed a lot of milk, and I think it took about a week for his clothes to dry out. So big weekend for Pierre, big weekend for the LionHeart Series. Really great job by those guys to endure 500 miles, yes, 1,000 miles, yes, even 1,500 miles. I do believe Pierre ran 3 complete 500 races. It was a big weekend for those guys.
And it's going to be a different kind of strategy tonight because they don't have to go through 500. They got to go through 150, but it is going to be high intensity from the drop to green flag. Qualifying now officially down to a close, and as the field gets gridded up behind the iRacing.com Fort First Mustang pace car down on the pit lane, we will give you the GSRC starting grid for the Kansas Hollywood Casino 150. Pole position, last second stolen but the driver of the number 27, how about Jake Wright, pole position with a 24.983. On our boards, it is identical to Dan Guerin, so that means it goes down to the 10/1000th of a second. It's that Ada Guerin, though, that'll line up in second. Tony Lurcock can roll from the inside of row 2. In third, it's fourth position to Jesse Vincent, and Trevor Malone going to be starting in fifth.
And in sixth place, it's going to be Big Joe Hassert in the Nike machine, number 11 there. New paint job for Big Joe. Jack Bogan starts seventh tonight in the number 20 I Race for Gage machine, racing for his grandson. Congratulations there, Jack. The number 53 Justin Laxton starting in eighth. John Downing from Simposter starting there in ninth in the number 82. Pierre Deigel, two-time Indianapolis 500 winner this past weekend. He starts in 10th today, Evan.
Ian Adams going to bring the number 3 off at 11th position. It is Corey Tiger Connor in the number 12th spot alongside just behind him. Chris Lanini's number 92 car going to be rolling from 13th. 14th position to George Anzaldo and put Adam Plunkett's number 100. He's back in 15th.
Yeah, and behind Adam there starting in 16th place, that's going to be Carl Burke in the 027. Going to be Krista Nelson in the number 25 in 17th place. Alfred Shepard starts 18th tonight in the number 13. Starting in 19th in the number 16, Peter Edwins in the 72. Vincent Blumenthal starts 20th. And to round out our field, it looks like we're going to have Jason Robarge in 21st in the 64. Howard Livingston starts 22nd in the number 23. And Ryan Bowles in the number 110 will round out the 23 car field tonight.
And it looks like a couple of drivers not going to take the grid. I know that Livingston still in the sim, can start from pit road. He's not currently out on track, and the 110 of Ryan Bowles is not currently in the sim, so that team we don't expect to take the drop to green flag. 23 of them, though, scheduled to make a maximum field here as we get set to get this one underway. The Hollywood Casino 150 is going to be led to the green flag by that Amazon.com. Number 27, Honda up in front of the field. Jake Wright took that in the very closing seconds of our 5-minute 2-lap solo car, closed car qualifying run. Let's see if he can do anything with it. He's got a lot of big names around him, including Jesse Vincent, who is your championship winner, but is tired of finishing bridesmaid. He has back-to-back second places. Green flag flies, now officially underway for the Kansas Speedway. Green flag down into quarter number 1. We send 21 of these bad boys off already at 200 miles an hour through 1 and 2. Jake Wright in control first.
Jake Wright, second start in this series there, Evan. Off to a great start. Watching the battle here back in the field. Corey Connor already pressing. Looks like he's pressing on, that'd be Jack Bogan right there in the iRace for Gage machine. Corey all over the bumper of Jack as they come across the start-finish line. Pierre Deigel looking on, trying to make a move to get there.
We went side by side for first. It didn't work out all that well for the car that is trying to make the outside lane work. That's Tony Lurcox, number 42, up at the front of the field right now. Went to the outside on Jake Wright. Early on contact there, and he gets nudged up the hill after small contact from Dan Guerin. Everybody is able to hang on, and now Dan's going to do exactly what Tony tried. Not sure if it's going to work out because that 42 went up there. Was good on the run, but then started to stall out, and that allowed Jake Wright to pull away a little bit. We'll have to see. Top 3 small break. Side by side for fourth with Jesse Vincent. Up on the outside lane is Big Joe Hassard. He's got company from Trevor Malone, but you see the same thing happen to Dan Guerin that happened to Tony Lurcock. The outside not very strong in 3 and 4.
Still watching this battle back here for 8th place. Jack Bogan holding off Corey Connor right now. Pierre Deigel just sitting back there at 11th, watching it all happen. Corey making a move to the inside on Jack right now as they head into the turn. Corey takes it down low, and he makes it work. Jack slides back in. Well, no, Jack stays up and slides in now. And again, Pierre still looking on. Ian Adams getting his nose into the picture there. And here comes George Unzalmo on the inside and into one.
Big pack up front, about 3 cars on the outside lane, and then 3 cars on the outside back in the battle that you're talking about, just inside of the top 10. Now side by side for the top spot. They're side by side for 3rd and for 5th. This lead group going at it very hard, and over still Jake Wright though by the V, I guess, of being in that control car
Jack
spot.
Bogan and Ian Adams make contact. They're spinning. The yellow flag is out.
Car still trying to get through. It looks like most people going to be able to sneak on by, but caution flag does fly after Jack Bogan, that driver that you were talking about, battling there. You'll see the replay off of 4. Looks like Ian Adams just close on that left rear. Clips him a little bit, and those cars make contact, but it looked like may have been a little bit of netcode on that one down the front.
Jeez. Why? I'm not laughing at these poor guys. Why did that have to happen now, Evan?
7 laps in out of 100, but at least we are prepared for it. They were close, and you look at the replay, look at the onboard, and I'm sure, if you're behind the wheel of that car, you have no idea that the guy that's on your left rear doesn't touch you, but there was a little bit of space, and Sean, I do believe that you are prepared with the definition on that.
Netcode is a blanket term for anything that somehow relates to networking and online games. Netcode is a term most commonly used by gamers when discussing synchronization issues between clients and servers. The actual elements of a game engine that can cause so-called netcode issues include, among other things, latency, lag compensation, or the lack thereof, simulation errors, and network issues between the client and server that are completely out of the game's hands. Netcode as a term tends to be used only in the gaming community as it is not recognized as an actual computer science term.
And it is also not necessarily recognized in many people's terms. What does that mean in English, Sean?
Yeah, that means that there was some interference on the web there, and a couple of guys got into each other, but they didn't really get into each other.
You could describe it as a bubble, maybe. The sim thinks the car's a little bit bigger than it is. Contact, and that's something that you'll see a lot, and it is something that if you're on iRacing and you're a member for a while, you get used to it. But for those that may not be members on the service, kind of difficult to understand how that works. That is Sean Ambrose, not the script spelling bee winner, but if there was a definition version of that, I'm sure he'd be right on there, up in the running, and that is the exact term or definition of netcode. Did have a little bit of pit stop action under this caution flag. We saw Big Joe Hassard up front almost come down pit road, fake it out. A couple of guys just behind him came down the pit lane. The only driver that's going to fall off of the lead lap so far is Jack Bogan from that contact, and no resets tonight as well. So what you get at the start is what you got to use for the night. So it looks like that number 20 machine, they don't have a front cone on it. They could get a wing replaced, but that's not the only damage on Bogan's machine, so his night may be done well before they were planning on it. But again, we saw in the practice session when we went on, we saw 2-3 wide, and we said, although it's not the race, this is what we're going to see. That's exactly what we saw in those first 4 laps.
Yeah, it was. And you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity. I feel really horrible for Jack. Tough night for him to get involved in something like that. It's his wife Cheryl's 60th birthday tonight. They've been together for 25 years, been married for 20. She held off their vacation to go to the Oregon coast so he could run tonight, and held off her birthday celebration. And I'm sure this isn't the way he wanted it to end. But again, happy birthday to Cheryl tonight. Happy 60th birthday to you from GSRC and everybody here at the LionHeart IndyCar Series. Again, happy birthday, Jack. Sorry things didn't end well for you tonight, but, sir, when you look at that replay, you will clearly see it was the dreaded netcode.
So the lights go off on top of the iRacing.com. Ford First Mustang pace car going to be diving down to the safety of the pit lane this time by single file restart. Coming up at quarter number 4, still Jake Wright on top of the board via that pole position. He'll be followed by Dan Guerin, Tony Lurcock, Trevor Malone, and Big Joe Hassard inside of the top 5. Green flag now flies back at quarter number 4, the second American Ethanol restart on the evening, and Wright going to sail it off down to quarter number 1, already side by side for 3rd. Look at the move to the bottom. Here comes that number 69. Trevor Malone making a move on Tony Lurcock. Big Joe Hassard going to do the exact same thing. 42 drops 2 spots in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, tough start for Big Joe there. Tony Lurcock got off to a bad start there too. He was really slow off the grid. Oh, he's got a
Three
car
wide.
right behind him there. Was that Jesse Vincent up there behind him?
And Vincent going to go to the high side, and down to the bottom go Justin Laxton. Both those drivers going to get clear on that 42 machine. Bump Justin Laxton up to 5th. Bump Jesse Vincent up to 6th. And Lurcock, after starting inside of the top 4, already back to 7th. Already that quickly. No challenge up in the front of the field. In fact, that number 27 has a fair gap of about 6-7 tenths of a second this time by the start-finish line, and that will only grow if they continue to battle side by side for second on back. Dan Guerin has it, Trevor Malone wants it, and Joe Hassard's here to follow through whoever is quicker. So far, though, we haven't really seen the outside be able to work when everybody's up to full song, unless you go 3 wide and split somebody down to the middle. You see that number 40, or the 69 car slide a little bit high, come back down and line off the quarter. Things getting really racy for second on back, which is actually allowing that 27 all by himself, Sean, to pull away at the front of the field.
Well, that 27 is Jake C. Wright, and Jake is a new recruit here in the LionHeart Series. Several new recruits in the race tonight. They're bringing these guys in, letting them run the last couple races of the year right now to get them some practice, get them ready for Season 3. Jake is a fast one. Seen him race outside of the LionHeart Series. He's going to be one to watch out for in this series in Season 3. Right now, he looks like one to watch out for tonight. Just real quickly looking at this battle back here, Tony Lurcock about to give up 7th place. He was a sitting duck in the middle of the track by himself, and then this pack of 5 cars is slowly snuck up on him, all coming around him now. I'm kind of wondering if Tony hurt the car there off of that start, but he seems to be off case.
And a lot going on behind them. Up on the outside is Jesse Vincent. Talked about how that number 1 machine entering tonight is already locked up this Season 2 championship, but he's sitting with 4 wins, pretty good, but that number, if a couple of things had gone differently just these last few weeks, Sean, could easily be 6 back-to-back bridesmaid positions for that number 1 machine. So Vincent wants to get back to victory lane here before the season's out, and for sure, when we got the cameras with us this evening live on the Global Sim Racing channel, he's in a hornet's nest though right now because they're fighting in front of him, they're fighting behind him, and because this track is just so racy, Sean, I can guarantee you there's a couple of guys in these fights, they don't want to race as hard as they are, but if you're not making a move on somebody constantly, the guy behind you making a move on you, and you can find yourself going the wrong direction very quickly. So a lot of these guys forced into a position to go big or go home, I guess, a good way to point at it.
Yes, definitely. Corey Connor and Carl Burke in a real battle back here. They're side by side, slingshotting each other right now. Corey trying to take him up high. Slow car down below. Looks like George Anzaldo is down below there heading into the pits. I don't know if he's got damage or not. We'll go back and check on that real quick.
George Anzaldo is right now 2 laps in a negative, does have right side damage on that car that he suffered in the earlier incident when we saw Jack Bogan go around, Sean. That car tried to avoid it, and it looked like he caught the fence a little bit, and now that they get a closer look at the suspension on that car, it is pretty torn up. He went out there, but he quickly fell 22 seconds off pace, and again, with no quick fixes, which is you don't have the ability to come down, get a brand new race car, you're going to have to sit there for X amount of time that the sim designates that you need to serve until they can get that machine as fixed as possible.
Corey
That's what
Connor
he's doing
spinning,
now.
and he saves the car. Corey Connor saves the car. He was spinning in the middle of the backstretch, had contact, it looked like, with Vincent Blumenthal there in the middle of the backstretch, and Corey manages to save the car. He's still in the power. What a save.
You're taking a look at the replay right now, and our good terminology of netcode comes back into play in that. Got close. They may have made contact after they came off the quarter. Blumenthal slid up the hill on him, but just knocked Corey Connor's machine around. He was 45 degrees sideways. Great job by Tony Lurcock to not plow into the top of him, and both of those drivers going to be able to continue on, still stay clean and green, and that could have been a lot worse than it ended up being. Only bad news is not only did Connor lose a lot of time, but now he's back in a battle after kind of being in a spot where he was in front of a little bit of it with a little bit of clean air. The top 6 and 7 now, that's going to be the differential from where we're starting to split this field up right now. Crossover move going to be made coming out of quarter number 4 by the number 8 of Dan Guerin. He goes to the bottom on Trevor Malone, goes to the outside on Joe Hassard. And you know, this is probably as the racing is going to appear in the final 10-15 laps of this race. Guys darting inside and out, but they've been racing this hard, and they've been racing under these circumstances, Sean, all week long, that it's kind of like when we go to the facilities where you'll pass somebody down into one, that guy going to get the draft down the back straightaway, pass you into corner 3, and they just kind of do that. Just tonight at Kansas, it's amplified to, we're just going to cross each other over every single lap, 2-3 wide, but it's common practice.
Yeah, and what we're watching right now is we've got 3 different groups on the track racing, okay? And all 3 of them are pretty fast, but there's so much space in between them, it's really hard to catch that group in front and really draft up there. We just continuing to watch Corey Connors fall here. He's in a battle back here for 12th and 13th place right now, battling with Ian Adams and Jason Robart. Chris Lanini in that mix also, but the field is really starting to spread out.
And one driver that you could consider maybe in a group of his own is that Jake C. Wright machine, the 27, still in the high 7/10ths. We'll call it 8/10ths to make the math a little bit easier, in front of second on back, and he started on pole position. Didn't get this run, though, on the drop of the initial green flag. On the start of the race, we were 2 wide. Big differences being the control car. He can go from when the pace car hits pit road to the sim actually dropping the green flag when the flag stand throws it after he exits the restart box. That is a lot of time for the leader to play games with drivers around him. Because they were single file, he set sail and has not really looked back. Now 3 wide for second. In the middle is champion Jesse Vincent. Up on the high side is Trevor Malone, the driver that's kind of minding his own business for the most part in the middle of this. Is that Dan Guerin entry down on the bottom, and now Justin Laxton's Overdrive Graphics number 53 machine wants to come and join the party. This is that first group, if we're talking about 5 of them, 2nd through 6th position right now, within 0.3 of a second. Now caution.
Pete Edwards in the middle of the track.
Looks like Vincent Bluthenthal, that machine spun around as well. The 72 car out in the grass, and it looks like the 2 names that we mentioned found each other at a quarter 4.
That Pete Edwards machine looks like it's hurt pretty good. It hit the wall really, really hard. I'm watching the replay right now. Hit the wall hard, and looks like he got involved there with the Vincent Bluthenthal car, like you were saying. Vincent come all the way across the front end of that as he was spinning, and Edwards into the wall, goes for a wild spin himself, tore the whole front clip off of that car. Nobody else managed to get into him, though. Everybody else was able to avoid that, Evan. And
you saw what it looked like from on board, that car that was immediately up on the high side of that one. You saw Peter Edwin's roll bar camera on that. It looks like maybe coming up a little bit higher than he would have anticipated was Vincent Bluthenthal. That small contact, and then again, those drivers get hooked around. They end up in the outside wall. Good news for everybody at that time, although they were running inside the top 10, was they were at the tail end of a pack as opposed to the front of it in these groups we've been talking about, so that could have been a lot worse. Leaders down to the pit lane, many of which for the first time tonight, they are led by that number 27, Jake C. Wright. He does have the number 1 pit stall, which could be big when it comes to getting off the pit lane. Chris Lanini going to stay out. He'll take over the race lead for not coming down pit road, but the 27 leads us in.
And he does, and right there behind him, Ian Adams, and looks like he's going to make it off first. Yes, Jake Wright will go off as our leader. Big Joe made it off right behind him.
And although it was real close for second, no change immediately inside. And now it looks like Jake Wright may have sped exiting the pit lane. He has a penalty. He is pulling over, and he's letting everybody go on by. That would be a terrible case for the number 27 team. Trying to see, again, he could have felt like he was threatened by Joe Hasser coming off of the pit lane. I didn't see speeding on exit of the pit lane. The question would be then, did he speed on entry under caution? Again, a lot of the time, Sean, these guys will try to accelerate at the last second, then brake before the line, and try to get a little bit of a gap between them and the guy behind them, and it may have cost him. Looks like he got caught 7 miles above the pit road speed limit entering, and that may have been what penalized him.
Wow, what a critical error so early in this race. The good news is it is early in this race. We're only a third of the way through it, just about, and he's going to have plenty of time to make that up, but boy, I'll take being up there in the clean air any day over having to fight my way from the end of the longest line to get back up front.
And with a 60% fuel cell, you mentioned that we're at about the third mark. Well, we're taking lap 30 right now, so in about 2-3 laps, we will be at the 1/3 mark. 30 laps is about what you can do with a 60% fuel cell, which is what these drivers are looking at, which means that if you do simple math, you'll be 10 laps short. However, we get a couple of cautions. I feel like the unanimous decision would be maybe a 2-stop race, of course, unless you're down for some damage.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and we'll see here how these caution flags play out. For all we know, Evan, this could be the last one. If it is, then you're definitely going to need at least 2 stops to get this thing done. The question is, when do you go and who do you go with? So we've got a couple different teams out here racing tonight, and I know they are definitely working against each other, and I definitely know that some drivers are purposely trying to not be near those teams when they make their moves, so keeping it close to the vest. So we'll see how it goes, but you will definitely see some strategy played out before this night is over, my friend.
George Anzaldo getting a lap back the only way you can in an IndyCar series, and that is being in front of the leader. He sits behind the pace car, and when the lights go off, that machine going to get the wave by right there. 5 laps down is where he will sit when it is all said and done, but again, still working with some right side damage that forced that car to the pit lane during green flag conditions. So far, though, only Jack Bogan has retired from this race. Two of the drivers that were just involved in an incident now out of the race. Both those cars are pretty much scrap metal. They still sit down on the pit lane, which means the drivers pretty much just catching all the action from atop the pit box, but they are done for all intents and purposes. Vincent Blumenthal going to be finishing. Right now, he scored 18th. Assuming George stays out there for a little bit of time, he'll probably fall to 19th, and then Peter Edwin's also done. He's still behind the wheel of that car, but that one looks pretty torn up as well. He'll probably come home with a P20. So 3 cars scrapped out of this one early. All the contact likely to happen on the front straightaway. This progressive banking is throwing a lot of us for a curveball. We're going to be 2 laps away for the 1/3 mark in this event, and up at the top of the field now via a speeding penalty that put Jake Wright's Amazon.com Honda after being so fast in the race off the pit lane, but too fast entering, has your pole sitter way back in P14. Joe Hassler going to be the control car for this restart. Pace car down and away. He leads Jesse Vincent, Dan Guerin, Justin Laxton, and Trevor Malone to the green flag.
Watching Jake Wright back here, not a bad start, maybe just a tick slow. Ian Adams all over his bumper though. Jake's got a lot of work to do as he did restart this race in 14th place, people.
Joe Hassert using that control car spot to get out to a comfortable lead. There's battles all the way through this pack, but significantly more spread out, at least in these first stages, than we were on the last one. This time, though, leader not going to get too far. The battle is on up front to the outside. Goes the Red Bull Racing Team. Hashtag nailed it entry of Jesse Vincent up to the high side. He's got company. Dan Guerin slots in line. They're pushing down the back straightaway at 220. 3 wide to the outside contact. That's trouble for Trevor Malone. He got contact with Dan Guerin. That car sideways, right side into the outside wall. Hangs on, but he possibly has some aero damage.
Man, what a run up there. I'm watching right now Ian Adams on the outside of Krista Nelson. Jake Wright in that mix right there. He is Chris Lanini just behind Jake, and Jake is in this mix right here with these 4 cars. Just so close there to Ian Adams. Almost got a piece of the left rear of Ian Adams. Ian had to get off the pedal there and move out of the way. So Jake right now looking to make a move, going into 1 on Krista Nelson. Can't quite do it up top. Krista's holding that line down below. Chris Lanini in the mirror of Jake Wright follows him down the back stretch as they try and get through 3 around Krista Nelson. Not going to make it work this time. Ian Adams still in the mix, hanging out behind Lanini right now. Can the 3 cars get past the 1? We'll see as they head across the stripe.
Well, it seems they're all working together. They've all jumped up to the high side, which means they're all going to be working with each other. There is one way to make the outside work a little bit better. It is the longest way around the racetrack, but it's called side draft. Now, when you're doing 225 miles an hour, easier said than done, but as these laps continue to fall off, you'll start to see the spacing in between all of these race cars continue to diminish all the way through to the checkered flag. And already the group's forming, top 5 in a pack of their own within 0.3 of a second of each other. That's Joe Hazard over Jesse Vincent, Dan Guerin, Justin Laxton, and Pierre Deigel. That is secondary group of yet again another 5 cars, 6th through 10th position. Trevor Malone, now you got Corey Connor swapping about, so he'll bump up to 6th. Falling back to 7th is Malone, Jason Robarge, Carl Burke, Tony Lurcock in that fight as well. And then it's the battle behind now who's going to be Jake Wright, Ian Adams, you got Nelson, Lanini, Downing, and everybody else on the racetrack in that last group. So once again, 3 packs, and they're all going 2-3 wide apiece, side by side, still for the lead, but so far tonight, Jesse Vincent has been going to the high side all night long and has not been able to get anything brewing quite yet. He'll make it side by side out of 4, but it looks like Big Joe Hazard has the preferred lane, and I can guarantee that 11 machine does not plan on giving it up anytime soon.
Now, Jesse's a smart fella. He knows by riding up there in that higher line, he's taking it easy on those tires, and when we get close to the end of this run and these cars start to lighten up, he's going to have the fresher tires to work with and be able to take that car down low, start making those moves to get down under these guys and be faster. So Jesse, he's not going to be the champ for nothing at all. He's a pretty smart character out there, and I think right now he's maybe just saving those tires just a little bit until we get a little deeper into this run.
And already quickly approaching what would be the halfway point in this event. 18 drivers still on track, 17 of which are on the lead lap. Again, the only driver off right now is George Anzaldo. That car not quite up to pace. He's about 50 miles an hour off it, but it's still out there on track. He works 5 laps down. You continue to take a look at this lead pack as they cycle off of quarter number 2. A lot of company from that secondary group of 5 starting to catch them, and pretty soon here we're going to have one big 10-car pack up at the front of the field. Top 10 going from separated into 2 groups to only within 1.4 seconds of each other. That is just how strong the draft is. It's strong for everybody but the guy in second on the outside, because that seems to be the only place where we haven't seen consistent swaps for position. Third on back, 3rd through 10th, every man for himself right now. Everybody trying to split high, split low, crossing each other over every time through. Everything counts. And another thing is, you never know what a caution flag could fly in these races, Sean. We've seen very quickly 2 cars get close contact. You talk about how we fall off into a group. Making a move and crossing somebody over versus not could be the difference between you leading a group and being at the back end of maybe the top 5 group later on in the event. Every position counts. You look at these guys down the back straightaway, 2 wide for at least 3 different battles there in the top 10 alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the battle right now between Laxton and Connor is one to watch. And then just behind them, you've got Tony Lurcock and Trevor Malone going at it. I mean, so, that's Jason Robarge is in the mix there, too. I think Jason's maybe having a little bit of connection issues tonight as I keep seeing him flash in and out on my screen. And of course, if that's really the case on the track, if Tony Lurcock is seeing that, he's got to be careful and watch where that car disappears and reappears on the track as they head across the start-finish line right now. And now it officially is a lead group of 10, which leaves 11th on back in what could be considered no man's land. They might need a caution if they want to group back up, because 2.8 seconds plus for the groups of Jake Wright, Ian Adams, and company is quite the distance, especially here at the Kansas Speedway at the speeds that these guys are running. But Joe Hazard still, we have yet to see a pass for the lead under green flag conditions. Jake Wright, that crew got it done on pit road, but they weren't able to do it on the entry. Speeding penalty has him back there. This could put us in a very interesting situation, not only if we see green flag pit stops, because by the way, Kansas Speedway is a very interesting racetrack, very tricky to enter pit road nonetheless, get it down to speed and get a lot out of it, but as well, you got to tiptoe around the apron down there, blend back up with the racetrack down the back straightaway during green flag conditions. So that in and of itself, if we get green flag pit stops here, which aren't really all that far away if we stay green, are going to be very interesting. But as well, if we get caution flag pit stops, we talk about how pit stops in iRacing, they only have very small variations. Typically, the pole sitter going to have the best shot at it, Sean, because he doesn't have to worry about getting up the full song to get to the line. He can gas it, reach it, you're ready to rock and roll. Race leader right now, Joe Hazard, is into number 6 stall, and the guys behind him, at least the first 2, Dan Guerin and then Jesse Vincent,
they have pit stalls closer to that final scoring stripe on pit road than he does. So two very different situations can shake things up here. Right now, though, the 11, he wouldn't mind if he had a 120% fuel cell instead of the 60, because he'd rather just keep where he is all race long through. He's got a lot of company behind him now, approaching lap 50 the next time by.
Hey, man, Trevor Malone is hooked up right now and coming through the field quick. He's picked up
wasn't he
spots.
Just in the wall like 10, 15 laps ago?
Yeah, I know, and look where he's at right now. I mean, he is just on rails right now. Look at the move he just made to the inside there. I mean, that car is really fast right now. He is definitely the class of the field right now. As he's going to take Joe down.
Got tight there and 1 and 2, checked him up. I'm not sure if maybe getting the right rear of that car into the outside wall and at Indy cars, the equivalent of maybe flaring a side skirt on a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series car, but it has definitely hooked that number 69 machine up. Flew through the field, dove it low, very sharp move. Everybody going to work around Georgia and Saldo. That machine going to stay high and is going to be able to remain out of the way right now. But he is definitely hauling mail, and now the car's starting to get really, really tight. Maybe he overworked those tires. That's back-to-back times in quarter two, Sean, where he almost just went straight up the hill to the wall, and he may have made some small contact with Corey Connors, number 2. The GoPro Be a Hero machine going to be able to make the pass with that Ford EcoBoost power on the outside, move up to 3rd. Jesse Vincent going to go to the bottom to get up to 4th. So although he slides back to 5th, still better off than maybe what I would have thought after he got in the wall, all things considered. But that car's starting to look real tight in quarter 2. Meanwhile, Dan Guerin still relentless with Joe Hastert. Half a car length lead down the back, not going to do much dividends once you get down into quarter number 3. But he's not giving up and accepting the fact that you can't get around him. He's trying.
Yeah, I really thought Trevor was about to pull off that move there on Big Joe. I got a little ahead of myself, a little excited there. Just scanning through the field, trying to watch some of these other battles, but really the one that we're focused on right now is the one to watch. Jake Wright not really picking up much ground here. Our former leader of this race is really finding it tough getting back through this field. He's really just in a back and forth battle with Ian Adams right now, and that's it. They're all alone by themselves, but he's only picked up a couple of spots since the restart. So Jake really having trouble finding his way back to the front.
Well, some of the keys to the race strategy here is that the push is real, Sean, as you like to say, and you know that hitting your marks are very important. You were talking about how when Jesse Vincent was riding up on the high side, a little bit less force on those tires to take the longer way around, keep it easy. You're starting to see, now that these guys are mixing it up a lot more, look at that move there. Trevor Malone tries to shoot to the inside on Corey Connor, doesn't work, checks it up, goes all the way up and just about planted her in the fence. Once you get racy like this, it is very difficult to get in there just a little bit too hot, overdrive at the slightest spin, and there's some times where you're getting close to that wall, you can get off the gas, you can lock it up, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be in the fence, and I'm surprised nobody's done that yet because they're really starting to pick up the peak now past the halfway point in this one. Look at that number 2 machine running up against the high side, and well, Malone says the bottom doesn't work, so he'll try to make it another outside groove and almost put it up there to the outside wall on entry to the corner. Try to use some side draft. I mean, they are really going for it, but it is still Joe Hastert out front. Dan Guerin still glued to the right rear tire of the 11 machine, and this lead pack simmering down a little bit to only 7 cars. But look at that fight for 3rd. Malone loves that high side.
Yeah, he does. Trevor working the high side right now. I'm telling you, that car is fast, man. It's wicked fast. Don't know where he found all the speed. They are running the fixed setup. Maybe there is a little something about that damage that he got that actually made it better, but that car looks awful quick right now. Does look like Tony Lurcock's starting to make a move. His car is starting to look a little bit faster. He has caught the draft of Jesse Vincent, been following him around this thing. Tony looking to be a factor here there in the number 42 machine. Justin Laxton hasn't given up. He's still, he's been steady. Hasn't been real erratic. Keeping the car on the same groove pretty much every lap around right now. Trying to stay steady and just keep himself clean until the next pit stop comes up here, which, honestly, Evan, we're going to be talking about those here in probably about 10 to 15 laps. Wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some guys thinking about that next pit stop here real soon.
Oh, contact Joe Hastert at the 11. He goes around. Trevor Malone into the outside wall as well. They will both collect Carl Burke, and caution flag is out. Joe had worked that inside, and it was a bobble on the front stretch 2 laps ago that gave it up. And now you'll see the contact just got tight down low. It looks like maybe was Corey Connor. They slid up the hill. The 11 may have pinched a little bit. Nonetheless, they met each other at about 216 miles an hour, and it turned the number 11 machine around. Absolutely nowhere to go for the fastest car on track, arguably. Trevor Malone gets involved. We talked about then Carl Burke coming through as a third party in that one, getting some more damage. And again, quarter number 4 strikes back, and just as we were approaching those green flag pit stops, we'll see them happen under caution as we slow them down. Dan Guerin going to lead us down. The number 8 car now finds himself atop the pile.
And Burke just plows into Trevor there. That was wicked. And Big Joe suffers heavy damage as well. Lots of carnage there in that what appeared to be at first just kind of a small wreck, maybe even a light spin. It winds up being real fatal for a few of those cars as we see them taking a tow into the pits, and the fate of their race is now in jeopardy as it looks like they're both Joe and Trevor are going to need significant time in the pits to repair those cars.
No change, at least for the top spot, exiting the pit lane. 2 drivers that stay out are going to be Alfred Shepard, who had just pitted under green, is able to not lose the lap. He'll get away by, he'll be 14th for the next restart. And then George Anzaldo staying out to preserve a lap and remain only 8 laps down in where he runs right now. So you can do 30 laps on a tank of fuel at a 60% fuel cell, according to the rough estimate. Sean, there is 40 laps to go as of when they pitted. This can make this very interesting. We can see if we get another caution flag in this next 40-lap stint. If it's early, maybe somebody comes in, tops it off just a little bit. You don't really want to come in later on in this run and fill her up because you'd rather have a lightest car as possible later on. Or we can see some guys just stay out and maybe ride in 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear, all the way around under the caution flag here. Try to save as much fuel as possible. Very difficult to find 10 laps of fuel out of nowhere, but when you get caution flags to get it kicked off like they are right now, I can guarantee you these guys are saving. They might not want to shut it down because that would end badly for them unless you want to get somebody out there to restart you, but definitely ride in a high gear and save fuel.
Yeah, that's certainly one tactic you can use. I want to talk a little bit about George Anzaldo and his motivation to stay out tonight. Robert Bluin's not here tonight. Robert Bluin sits in 10th place in the championship points now. Going into this race tonight, George was in 11th, 31 points behind Robert Bluin. George needs to make every lap he can tonight, pick up as many positions as he can if he hopes to get into the top 10 with one race left in this season after tonight. So George really wants to make the top 10. I know it. I've talked to him, and he's got a shot to get some good points here tonight if he can just stay in this thing to the end and maybe be able to take over Bluin there with him being gone tonight. So we'll see. Good luck to George there as he tries to nurse that damaged machine around this track.
And it is not an easy thing to do to drive around the racetrack at 20 miles an hour off pace with these guys flying up your rears 2-3 wide, staying out of the way, doing an excellent job of keeping that 6 out of traffic and gaining spots as people drop out of this race. He's passed Vincent Blumenthal, Peter Edwins, Jack Bogan, and may very easily get around Ian Adams, Trevor Malone, and Joe Hassert, who are all just now recently wrecked out of this race. Every single little bit of points that you can get matters. Again, we talked about how the championship is locked up. You said it there. Battle to get inside the top 10, the top 5, top 3. All of this stuff continues on throughout this race, and then as well the season finale in 1 week's time from the Auto Club Speedway. Still a lot to fight for, and that's why you see the drive and determination. Not only in Georgia's situation there, we're just staying out and, battling through the attrition, but as well in the determination on why you see these guys still fighting so hard.
Well, listen, hey, there are bragging rights at stake. There are championship points at stake. It's a proud group of drivers as we see George come in now. Going to go ahead and get that car freshened up a little bit before he start and throw himself back to the end of the line there to stay out of the leader's way. But there's a lot of pride at stake. These guys work awful hard at this every week, Evan. They log a lot of practice laps, a lot of practice races, and okay, the pace car's in, I'm hearing. There we go, Evan.
Green flag is back out. Dan Guerin now finds the number 8 machine in control of this field, and it was his adversity and his attrition that got that Ford EcoBoost Power number 8 machine to the top spot. Team nailed it entry, now leading this race. We talked about how, almost we summed it up, as nobody can pass Joe Hassard in second. He almost forced an error out of Joe that made that Hassard entry slide back a little bit. He got around the 11, and then subsequently the 11 slid back to that group third place on back, is involved in an incident. But it was because Dan was constantly applying the pressure up on the outside lane that he was able to get the spot. Now he's leading this race and could possibly walk away with the checkered flag at the end of the night. Still has to get through about 35 laps until he can get to that point where side by side for P2. That's the first battle on the racetrack. It is Corey Connor in control. Tony Lurcock wants it. The 42 goes to the outside, and we've seen drivers be tried the outside all night long. At the start of the race, wasn't happening at all. They're slowly starting to figure this out. Now Jesse Vincent in this picture.
Yeah, man, and that's quite a race going on right there. As we're watching right now, Lurcock tries to make a move inside on Corey Connor. Corey Connor got the hot shoe right now, last week's winner, looking to defend that and get another win this week. He's got a ways to go to catch Dan, and the racing is behind him right now. Because we got 4 cars battling out, all trying to get around Corey Connor.
And the longer that these 4 cars fight it out, they're going to allow the cars behind them to catch up as well. Jake Wright, who led this race, still trying to get back up front to the point where he can be a part of this lead draft. The number 27 machine back in 9th right now, fighting with John Downey and Sim Posters, the 82 entry. That's a battle for 9th and 10th position. 1.9 seconds off the top spot. They need to be able to catch this main group of cars that still sit 3 wide or so down the back straightaway. Needs to get to them if he wants any shot at getting back to where he started. But again, we talk about how strategy can play into these races, and you know it's a very sinking feeling for a driver like Jake Wright. Talked about how it's only his second start here, Sean. Great talent in these DW12s. Came to put on a show. Took the pole really in spectacular fashion, taking a late run, a dominant race. A simple mistake. You know, you don't get on the brakes as soon as you wanted to. A misjudgment can cost you a win in a series where it's so difficult to just get in a spot to possibly even get a top 5 that 27 really just trying to scrap for anything he can.
Well, I think, you know, Jake wants to try and prove himself here to these guys too. You know, he wants them to know that he's someone to be contended with, and that they can race around him too. More importantly, so. Jake having a great race, though. He's being patient, man. Still plenty of time to go. 30 laps to go. Jake's got plenty of time to make this work. Right now, he's got to worry about getting around Jason Robarge. And looks like he's able to pull that off and suck up there to the Carl Burke car right now and makes a move around Carl Burke, almost making it 3 wide, going through 1 there. Pierre Daigle in that mix. And there we go. Jake getting his way up and around, up into this front pack.
And I tell you, these guys separated by just a couple of feet here and there. This pack that you're looking at, 9/10 of a second behind race leader Dan Guerin, who not complaining at all that he's got almost a second cushion to second on back, but it is second on back. Just 9/10 of a second separate 10 race cars. And I see right now 4 sets of side-by-side racing on the racetrack. 4 of them up high, now diving down low in 3 and 4. The only reason you're going in line is to get another one to try to go back to the high side. There's no riding at all in this race, but 2 laps away from 3/4 distance, and then really it is game on. And really they're all fighting with each other, but if anybody wants the top spot, they're going to need a caution flag. Dan Guerin setting off into the Sunflower State Sunset here at Kansas Speedway. He's gone.
Man, Jake Wright is coming, baby. He just had a power move off of 2. Coming across the start-finish line, he overtook Daigle like Daigle was standing still, man. He's doing it up here in the that upper middle groove of the track. Really getting a nice run off of 2. As they head down the backstretch, he's about to lay Justin Laxton to waste and get around him, and then he is truly going to be up here working on this lead pack of cars. Now they're side by side going through the turn. Laxton almost gets into him as they head across the start-finish line, but Jake Wright is coming, boys. Watch out, he's knocking.
Continuing to pick and charge through this field. There's only one way to do it, and it's 1 by 1, and that is exactly what he is doing. He's showing that Trevor Malone speed that we saw earlier. Look into the bottom of the 42 of Tony P4, can't get it that time by. The lane that he decides to go with is down low. The 42 going to choose to follow the number 1 Jesse Vincent up on the outside lane. Right going to follow down low the Corey Connor machine, who sits in second right now. But again, all this for, points and whatnot. You talk about some people that are in spots to still fight for a lot in the championship. Some drivers are in positions where really there's not a whole lot they can fight for. I can tell you that 6th all the way through 9th in the championship standings, only separated by about 11 or so points. It is still very, very close, but Dan Guerin could be the real big winner in this one, and he might get it very easily. Now 1.4 seconds of the good. He's just leaving them and continuing to pull away because we stay 2-3 wide, a handful of rows deep.
George Gonzalo doing a really good job of staying out of the way there of the guys as they were all coming by. Really, the race has come down to this one pack here of these, what do we got, about 10, 11 cars right here all racing it out, and they got to go back to Jake Wright, man. Jake is charging, man. He's coming to Jesse Vincent. He's got a mirror full of Jake Wright right now. Corey Connor can see him over his shoulder. Jake's about to make this a very, very interesting little battle right here as they head across the stripe.
You take a look on board with the driver that sits right now in 4th, Jake Wright. He used to have a view of clean air at the beginning of this race, and it's been a completely different picture since starting to get back to where he started, but he may just run out of time. 21 laps to go this time by, and he fights with your series champion, Jesse Vincent, still Corey Connor in second. And because Dan Guerin's so far away, what we're seeing right now for second on back is what we've seen for first on back so much tonight. The first place car in that pack, so very difficult to pass. Dan Guerin's been the only person to do it so far, and he's earned himself the top spot with that. Let's see what Jesse Vincent can do as he continues to apply the pressure for P2.
Okay, now, Evan, we've got 20 laps left to go here, okay? It's go time, baby. But I think you're going to have to pit, right?
Well, they got about 3 laps under caution there to get it kicked off. And again, 30 is a rough number with a 60% fuel cell, but 37 laps, you figure if you save a lap, you do a 2-to-1 ratio there under the caution flag. 37 laps or so, 38 laps, that's pushing it. You are in a draft, you might be able to save, but for a guy like that number 8 of Dan Guerin, you're not saving anything because you don't have any draft in front of you.
And has Jake Wright been saving anything? I mean, he's been charging so hard, there's no way he's saving fuel. So, this is going to get pretty interesting here. This green flag stays out, which I got to be honest with you, I expect at this point it's going to. These guys look great, man. This has been a wonderful race. Really fast action on this track. This is becoming quickly one of my favorite mile-and-a-half tracks ever.
And you can see they can be aggressive. They can go 2, they can go 3 wide, but they can do it with such precision because the racetrack, it just allows them to do that. You turn on the lights here, you set the sun down. The track is the same temperature as the air, 78 Fahrenheit. That is nice and cool. Well, he's bringing that Mario Kart number 42 machine down pit road. Is he playing it safe, or does he have to do it? We'll see. John Downey now coming over the radio. That driver who sits in 8th position. Carl Burke over the radio. That driver sits in 10th. Darrell coming down to the pit line. I think everybody's going to have to pit now. Here they come.
Well, I don't, you know what? Lurcock hit that commit cone coming in. I don't know if they penalize him for that or not, but he definitely hit it, and man, I don't know. I don't know if he got in at speed. It's going to be close. He might have gotten penalized there. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, we mentioned the possibility of pit road shenanigans. We've seen that under yellow. We also said how difficult it is to get down pit road cleanly under green. It appears we've seen that contact now. Jesse Vincent hard into the outside wall. The one up and over. Caution flag will fly just in the middle of pit stops. Are you kidding me? This changes it all. The one slides down to the apron on his lid, and it all started with contact on the front. Straight away, Justin Laxton with a huge run, and if the car's about 8 feet wide, there was an 8-foot gap, but just couldn't squeeze it in, and little bit of contact turned that number 1 hard into the outside wall. He came down and just about flipped over Pierre Daigle. That Monster Energy number 14 did a flat spin in the air, and a shocking incident there. takes out your series champion. Good thing he's got it locked up coming into this one, but what happens now after we've had the pit stops begin for some, and for others, they still need to come down?
Wow, what a major shakeup with just 15 laps to go in this race. And yeah, Justin got a heck of a run there, but there was just no room to put the car in there, right? And you know who gets away from that? Corey Connor. I mean, right there, almost looked like Laxton got just a small piece of it, but that car didn't wiggle at all. He kept going. Jake Wright gets through that as well, and Jake was right there. Makes a good, strong move to the inside to avoid it, but yeah, Jesse, I don't think Jesse's going to be able to get that car back out.
Dan Guerin, race leader, has to give it up. He comes down the pit lane. It's Corey Connor. He's in. Jake Wright, Justin Laxton, Adam Plunkett, John Downing, Kristen Nelson, Alfred E. Shepard, all in pit road. Pierre Deigel pits as well. Jason Robarge does not. Chris Lanini stays out as well. The number 92 Honda powered entry does not come down pit road, and I don't think Lanini had come down under that green flag run. He's trying to stretch the field. The last time he pitted, lap number 61. I bet you that 92's hoping that he can get a couple of yellows to ride this thing out, but why not? I love the strategy call.
Yeah, why not? I mean, obviously, we get another yellow or two, then it's going to work out for him just fine. So, Lanini hasn't been much of a factor tonight until now. So, this could be his chance to get him a win tonight. But it's going to be a fast restart here with, when we get going again. There's only going to be about 10 laps left, Evan, and man, there's going to be work to be done by a lot of guys, and a few people got left out on that whole pit stop right there. So that's a tough deal, man. That yellow certainly did not come at a good time.
And especially for Dan Guerin, who we would assume everybody was going to have to come down to the pit lane because they all started to cycle down. The drivers were getting on the radio, letting each other know that they were going to be hitting the pit lane quite soon. Dan Guerin not only loses the top spot, but that 1.5 second gap that he had is now erased. He'll be directly behind Chris Lanini right now. In between them on track is Carl Burke, the 027, one lap down. That machine going to get dropped to the back. Tough break for Burke in the fact that, Sean, if Lanini didn't stay out, he would have been able to get away by rejoin us on the lead lap and fight for it. The 027, however, will remain in a one-lap negative position. Behind the pace car is Tony Lurcock. He'll be able to get a wave by when the white flag comes out as far as restart goes, and he'll be able to get the 42 back up and around. He runs 14th, 2 laps down, but it'll put Dan Guerin right behind Chris Lanini. Question is, can that 92 get away from that 8 like the 8 did on everybody else? And if he can, do we get cautions that allow the 92 to even make it on fuel? And assuming that he does and he doesn't get away, can Dan Guerin do what only he has done tonight, and that is execute a pass on the high side?
Well, we're about to see. I don't know, man. I honestly think Dan has got the better car. I really don't think Lanini is going to make it on fuel. He's really going to be dependent upon another flag coming out here, and I just don't know if we're going to get it. I mean, these guys have been pretty patient all night long, and yeah, I know there's several of them fighting, but for a spot. But man, they've proven time and time again they can do this. So I don't know. I look for Dan to get a great start and get right around Lanini and get back into the clean air.
A little bit of bonus points up for grabs as well. Jake Wright has led 27 laps to Joe Hassert's 28. Those drivers are second most right now. Dan Guerin has led 30, but the most important one on the evening would be lap number 100. It is going to be right on the money. 10 laps to go. Coming to what could be the final restart. There's strategy involved on fuel. There's strategy involved on speed-wise and how you want to execute it. The Hollywood Casino 150 goes from a 150 to a 15-miler almost or so in this one. Who's going to walk away? Chris Lanini, control car, going to lead the field of still 10 on the lead lap strong at a quarter four. The iRacing.com Mustang pace car down to the safety of pit road. When does the 92 go? On the loud pedal at a quarter four. Green flag flies. 10 laps to go at Kansas. What can Dan Guerin do? And can Chris Lanini make her to the checker?
Checking in on the back of the field here, making sure everybody behaving. So far, so good. Little battle there right now between Robarge and looks to be Alfred Shepard there, but and Carl Burke still in the mix. So those cars working together right now. Krista Nelson right now following John Downey and Adam Plunkett right there, having a pretty good run. Everybody staying in line. Krista running on the low line right now. Plunkett up there, giving plenty of room. Checking in on Jake Wright. He's working the bumper of Corey Connor right now. Jake still in this race, still looking for a win. It could happen tonight. We'll see.
We go side by side for the top spot. They're nose to nose at the start-finish line. A huge run for Dan Guerin to the outside lane. Goes the number 8 machine. Can't get it at the line. It's still Lanini down low. Here comes Corey Connor. Jake Wright now back in this picture. 4 drivers throw him under a blanket inside of the top 4. Who makes the right call to do it? The 8 caught him at a bad time. He had such a big run, but he got to Lanini going into 3 as opposed to coming out of it. Only got side by side. Now he'll duck in line. Try to get a run, jump back out to the high side, use the banking down to back straightaway inside of what's going to be 6 laps to go this next time by. The 92 better be begging for a yellow. Still side by side for first and side by side for third as well. I think Dan might get him here out of 4.
Boy, Corey Connor with a move right there. Almost gets into Jake Wright there. Jake all the way up to the wall. Having to back out of it just a bit there, getting into the turn. Just trying not to get in touch there with Corey. Jake dives it to the inside. Just gets right down there on the line and keeps it down there. He's following Lanini right now, trying to track in his air and gain some ground, but it doesn't quite work there as he has to settle for going back to 4th place there.
And Dan was about 2 feet away from clearing Chris Lanini. Now Dan Guerin's number 8 machine falls behind him. He ducks back in line, jumps out of line at a quarter 2. He's got 3 degrees to his favor over that car down low. And a small bobble in the corner. That's going to be all she wrote. Chris Lanini slid up the hill, and he will get clear. Dan Guerin gonna put the number 8 machine back to the top spot. They'll go side by side for second now as it's Corey Connor on the high side. He'll take second as Lanini starts to slip.
Boy, what a battle going on up here. Not many laps left to get it done as we see Downing and Plunkett right now trying to get to this battle, but they're just not going to be able to do it. And Lanini is off pace. Lanini is off pace and dropping back through the field as we speak. Plunkett and Downing setting him up to overtake him right now. Krista Nelson there, our former leader. Chris Lanini is now off pace. I wonder if he's just trying to save fuel at this point to make it to the finish. He's got 2 laps left to do it.
Tire wear is a thing at the end of a long green flag run. Well, it was the race leader at that point, Chris Lanini, who was trying to do that and then some. These guys that pitted on 4 fresh Firestone tires, clearly with an advantage.
Lanini's got a pit. He just came on the radio, said he's got a pit, Evan.
That's all she wrote. He slid the 5th. It may be more white flag, though. Going to be in the air this time by Dan Guerin over Corey Connor, over Jake Wright. Who's going to get it? 1.5 miles to go.
Here comes Jake Wright on the outside, trying to get around Corey Connor. Easy for me to say. Jake is in it. Jake just trying to get a second place right now. Don't know if he can get to Dan Guerin, but can he get around Connor for a second?
Problem is they fight for second. Jake Wright wants to get around Corey Connor to fight for Dan Guerin. Corey Connor doesn't want to fight with Jake Wright to get the Dan Guerin, and what it does, it hands it to the 8. Checkered flag, the Hollywood Casino 150 to Dan Guerin. We thought that caution had taken it from him. The pit strategy call falls short for Chris Lanini, and again, the only driver all race long to pass the leader with a move on the outside by kind of pinching him down there in a close quarters race. Dan Guerin pulls over what we thought may have been the impossible tonight. 2 beautifully executed passes. The last one when it mattered the most. He takes home a win on the year and takes home the checkered flag 17 in the Hollywood Casino 150. I think he deserves to do some burnouts on the front straightaway, Sean. Not only was it exciting up front through the pack all race long, fastest car in practice, maybe missed it just a little bit in qualifying, started in second, took the benefit from a caution flag and an incident involving Joe Hazard, but he made the pass to put himself there, and it almost got taken away from him, but he would not be denied to get that Ford EcoBoost powered number 8 machine to victory lane.
Well, I got to tell you what, hats off to Dan Guerin. You know, that was only his second top 5 of the season, his first win on the season. I know, I talked to Dan quite a bit. I know how hungry he is for a win. I certainly know how much time he dedicates to this. Congratulations to Dan Guerin tonight. What a run. What a way to come on there in the late stages of this race and be a factor and win this thing. Just a fabulous run tonight for him. A fabulous run for this whole field. Sitting here looking at the results real quick. We'll do our rundown when we come back. But Krista Nelson, what a run. I think that was her best finish of the season. 6th place tonight. Krista having a great run. Starting all the way back there in 17th place and manages to finish 16th tonight. Corey Connor, he had some trouble, but was always in the fight, and Corey Connor manages to come home second. Jake Wright, after battling from all the way back there, after that caution flag there through the midway point of the race, he manages to finish 3rd. Podium finish for Jake Wright in his 2nd race with the LionHeart Series, Evan.
Hey, talk about Corey Connor. I was banging on him pre-race, and I said maybe it would give him some encouragement to get up there. A great run to 2nd, holding on there, and then Jake Wright started up front. We knew he had a fast car and clean air, Sean. A lot of guys, though, they can't take that, put it back in traffic, and work with it. He drove on a rail in the last and then the second-to-last green flag stints to get up there. 1.86 seconds short or so at the end of it all, but another great run for Jake Wright. But driving like he did, you never would have guessed it would have been. But the first checkered flag on the 2015 Season 2 campaign with the LionHeart IndyCar Series winner tonight is Dan Guerin. He walks away victorious in the Hollywood Casino 150, and it's not a little bit of gambling there, fittingly so, in the end, that gets that number 8 to victory lane. We'll step away for a brief moment on the Global Sim Racing channel, come back for the post-race show, and get down there into what I'm sure is an ecstatic victory lane and get you set up, because although the championship is already determined, we go championship finale racing in 1 week's time from Fontana, California. So much still to come tonight on GSRC. We'll step away for a moment. We'll be back in Kansas momentarily. Back live at the Kansas Speedway, the Hollywood Casino 150 draws to a close for round 17 of 18th in a penultimate race in the Season 2 Championship, the LionHeart IndyCar Series this evening, and it was a wild one, to say the least. Coming down to some pit strategy there, Chris Lanini stays out, runs out of fuel with about one lap to go there, and it's a day of what-ifs. Fast drivers that don't get the results that they wanted, drivers that nights may have been spoiled. A name comes to mind, George Anzaldo is able to recover, stay out there, fight through it, walk away with as many points as possible. This night had everything, and top it off with a first-time winner. We're live at the GSRC post-race show from Kansas City, and I'm down in the pit stall of the driver that started on pole position for this one, and unfortunately for Jake Wright, it did not end there, but it was a night that had so much promise. Jake, you started at the front of the field, you let her off a pit road, but unfortunately caught with a penalty that got you guys way, way back in the back. You fought through it, and most importantly, you got through all of that traffic. You survived to get that 27 back in a spot to at least fight for it at the end, but a strong night nonetheless. I'm sure you're still going to be disappointed considering how fast that 27 was.
Well, I'm not disappointed. I'm glad I finished in the top three. I mean, it would have been nice to stay up in pole and all that, but just falling back all the way to maybe 23rd or whatever last place was, and coming back to get a top three was nice.
You had to work through the field. There were a handful of incidents in the middle of that journey from the back of the pack back up to what would be a podium for you guys at the end of the night. There was a lot of action, though. It was very difficult to get around the leader. Guys were trying to go to the high side, but when you were in the middle of the pack and there was a lot of draft to play with, things were very fun. Dive bombing, make a crossover, slide it 2-3 wide, even maybe forcing the issue to the high side into a quarter. We saw a lot of things that these drivers could do and you guys could do tonight on a rather cold Kansas Speedway under the lights tonight. Rather cool racetrack. There was a lot of grip out there. You guys had a lot more things to play with here than you could at some of the other racetracks that we've seen this series go to on the year. What was it like racing out there in traffic and being 2-3 wide for pretty much the entire race, excluding the yellows?
It was awesome. It was definitely fun to go 3 wide and having all the grip that you get here at night. Yeah.
Well, it was exciting, for us, maybe nerve-wracking for you guys more so behind the wheel, but, you look at the positives on this one. You guys ran strong. You have a clean car at the end of the night, and the only two machines you finish, in front of, or rather behind, is, Team Nailed It cars who have really been so strong in this series. For you to come in here with the limited starts that you have, run up against the series veterans, that's got to give you guys, obviously, a boost of confidence going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
So we look forward now. This championship has already been decided. There's only one race to go, but are we going to possibly see that number 27 Amazon.com Honda maybe participating not only for the rest of this year, but possibly full-time maybe later on in 2015 for Season 3?
You definitely will, Evan.
Well, I'll tell you what, strong run tonight, and I'm sure if you get, 18 shots at it as opposed to the only 2 that you've gotten so far, I have a feeling that we'll be talking with you a lot to come in the future. Jake, it was a good run for you tonight. You led laps. You almost took home the win. It's a podium. Anybody you want to thank?
George. I want to thank George for hosting the league.
We want to thank you as well, Jake, for taking a moment to talk to us. Again, congratulations on the solid run. Best of luck next week at the Auto Club Speedway. And, maybe a little bit early, but best of luck in Season 3. We hope to see that 27 back out next week.
Thank you.
So that is your third place finisher and sat on pole position. Jake C. Wright, second start, and he finishes behind only the strongest cars in the field. A spectacular run en route to a P3 podium this evening. Now, a little bit further down pit road, the driver who, inside of the top 4, had to make up the most headway, Corey Connor, started in 12th position, ends up second. Sean Ambrose, you are down in the pit with a 2-car.
Hey, Corey, can you hear me, buddy?
Hello.
Man, that was some run. That was a pretty dicey race for you there. A lot of you had to dodge a few incidents and just barely got involved in a couple other ones. So, but it all worked out for you. You get on the podium tonight. Congratulations. How you feeling?
Yeah, feeling good. Coming off of the win off of Gateway last week, so I had pretty high hopes for this race this week. Just glad I could help Dan get up there, help maintain the lead, and get the win. Yeah, it was a lot. It was really dicey throughout the whole race. That draft had a lot of effect on the cars and a lot of beating and banging, but managed to come through it quite alright, if I say so myself.
Well, after experiencing a lot of bad luck early in this season, you seem to be finishing out strong. Really great effort by you tonight. How did the tires? How did they feel towards the end of a run? Were they really go away quick without any warning?
It really depended on where you were in the track. I mean, if you weren't in a draft, you really didn't feel it that much. But once you hit that draft and you had that worn tire, you'd be saying hello to the wall if you didn't let up or know how to control the car.
Right, right, right. Well, hey, again, congratulations. Would you like to give anybody a shout out tonight? Any sponsors, family, or friends you'd like to thank for tonight's podium finish?
Shout out to what'scookingnow.com. Obviously, they're our sponsor, and they do provide us with a lot of good stuff and to keep us racing. Shout out to BigCatRescue.com. They're my unpaid sponsor on the car. They do a lot of good for the big cats down in Tampa, keeping them safe, keeping them fed. And as always, shout out to my teammates Jesse, Ian, Dan. They're always good working together, making sure we're set right for the race.
Well, again, congratulations. We look forward to seeing you in California next week. Last race of the season, another chance for you to get back into victory lane.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right, be safe, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right, I think Evan has caught up with our race winner.
It is the second time in a row that it is a Team Nailed It driver that has not only gone to victory lane, but they've also gone 1-2. The driver that you just spoke to, Corey Connor, got his first win just 1 week ago, and tonight, in dominating fashion there at the end, he had to put the move on somebody up front 2 times on the outside lane, the last one coming within the final 5 laps of this one. It's his first win on the 2015 season for Dan Guerin's number 8 Team Nailed It entry, Ford EcoBoost Power, powering you guys to victory lane. Dan, first off, congratulations. What was that like having to go toe-to-toe with Joe Hassard and take about 25 laps to get around him? Then a late race caution throws everything back at a cycle. You had to do it again.
Oh man, what a night. Yeah, Joe was definitely running hard. He's hooking that bottom, and I felt, well, I'll just let him burn his tires up and just keep trying at him, and I had a good enough run on him and just barely completed the pass, but it was just enough to get him. And there at the end of the race, trying to get around Chris there, and I knew that he was going to run out of gas, so the sooner I could get around him, the better, and then go from there.
The racing was very exciting in the middle of the pack. Now, the 8 machine didn't have a whole lot to deal with in that regard. Tonight, you guys started second. You come home atop the pile, and a lot of the fighting you guys had to do was up front. We saw that the guys maybe a couple of rows back in, 6th, 7th position, 2 wide, 3 wide. Guys even going to the outside on corner entry, just trying to find anything they could really to make it work. Up front, again, you talk about how when you were fighting there with Joe, he was hugging that bottom lane, and it was very difficult on the outside. But this racetrack had so much grip. Really cool track temps tonight under the lights, so there was a lot of grip out there and very high speeds as well. What was it like behind the wheel, and what were some of the things that you guys maybe learned? I know you guys practiced throughout the entire week, so obviously prepared for this, but anything that you changed in your strategy wise from the beginning of the race and kind of worked on to the end?
Well, didn't change too much there. I was hoping to get the pole. I actually tied with the pole there, but it was a definitely hard race. The tires were excellent right off the bat, and you could run 3 wide wherever you wanted to pretty much until it started wearing off and pushing. But I mean, it was just a fun race.
It was an almost sweep of the board, but I think some number in the 10,000th of a second or so kept it off of that. But it was a hard-fought one, and nonetheless, your team goes 1-2, 2 weeks in a row, and back-to-back times, you and a teammate get your first wins. Obviously, also, Jesse taking home the championship. This team must be feeling pretty good right now, and you guys might hope that we're just getting the season kicked off with all those momentum instead of closing it out next week.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a great team. I'm so happy that Jesse brought me on the team here about 6 weeks ago. And I couldn't ask for better teammates. Corey helped me out so much there in the later part of the race. And then Jesse was helping me out at the beginning of the race there. And Ian just trying to help Ian catch back up to everybody. But just an excellent team to be on.
Well, I'll tell you, if you look at the numbers and finally getting this machine into victory lane for what's going to be your second top 5 on the season, the way you drove that number 8 machine out there, you never would have guessed it, because that was a championship caliber performance. You got the team behind you, but most importantly, you executed on the racetrack after almost losing it late, and you earned the win in this evening's Hollywood Casino 150. As always, all the people behind the scenes, the sponsors, the shout-outs, all that good stuff. Anybody you want to thank while we got you down here in Gatorade Victory Lane?
Oh, yeah, I definitely have a list to thank, but we'll go ahead and get right to it. Definitely thank you for Team Nailed It, Jesse and Ian and Corey. As I said, excellent team. Big shout out to my wife. She lets me do this. I don't know why she lets me do it, but she lets me do it. These long nights of practice and everything like that. But I also like to thank my sponsors, Sinclair Tractor, Knoxbox Photography, what'scooking.com, and slingingdirt.com.
You're a winner in this 2015 Season 2 campaign. Congratulations, Dan, and I guess maybe we'll see you in Fontana, possibly going for number 2 next week.
I certainly hope so. I had a good official races there last week running it, so we'll see what happens.
We want to thank you for talking with us again. Congratulations. Best of luck in Fontana. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
That is your winner tonight in the Hollywood Casino 150 from the Kansas Speedway. Dan Guerin starts P2. And again, he said it by less than 5/10,000ths of a second. Almost would have swept the board after being the fastest man on the track in practice. Comes home victorious at the end of. Sean, I am glad that this race was not on our initial television schedule. What an event, Kansas Speedway, such a unique intermediate. We've talked about how we've been to intermediate tracks. You know, if you're talking stock car racing, they call them cookie cutters, but they all have such different characteristics. Those are amplified when you put them out there in these Indy cars. This track's characteristic was you could do almost anything but pass the leader. The one man that figured out how to do it won the race.
You know, it's kind of funny to say it, but it almost felt like racing at Talladega at times. I don't know, just the width of the track, the way you were able to put the car basically anywhere you wanted to, and you could do everything you wanted to except, like you just said, pass the leader. It like I said, very reminiscent of a Saturday night race on iRacing at Talladega.
We'll give you the full field rundown and the results, the unofficial results so far from the Hollywood Casino 150, presented by Overdrive Graphics and Sim Posters. Your winner tonight is a driver of the number 8 machine, Dan Guerin. He wins by 1/1000th of a second over Tiger Connor. Corey Tiger Connor coming home in second with a Tiger print on that number 2 machine. Jake Wright, pole sitter, has to settle for a third, just a 10th and change off in the P3 spot. 4th position to John Downey and Sim Posters number 82 machine, and Adam Plunkett would round out our top 5, still within a second.
Krista Nelson brings it home in 6th place tonight. In 7th, Jason Robarge. In 8th, Justin Laxon brings it in there in 8th place in a number 53 Overdrive Graphics machine. Alfred Shepard comes home in 9th tonight. Chris Lanini, after kind of miscalculating that fuel, let's face it, he gambled. Didn't quite work out for him, but that's okay. He brings it home top 10 tonight.
And just behind him, 2 laps in the rears, comes home Carl Burks, number 027 machine. He'll settle for that spot. Tony Lurcock comes home in 12th. Then George Anzaldo went all night long, really, with a damaged race car after catching the fence on the first incident. Is able to pick up a total of 8 spots from other drivers that fell out of this race. He's able to salvage a 13th place result. Everybody from here on out was behind the wall and out of this event. 14th position was Pierre Deigel, and Jesse Vincent coming home in 15th.
Yep, and then Joe Hassert there, 16th. Tough break for Joe. Trevor Malone, same fate. Tough break there, 17th. Ian Adams, 18th. Vincent Blumenthal finishes this race 19th tonight. Tough break for Vincent. Peter Edwins had a rough start, never really recovered from it. So Peter Edwins finishes 20th tonight. And of the cars that started, Jack Bogan, unfortunately, was the first casualty tonight. But you know what? Maybe it wasn't all bad because Jack finishes 21st. Got to go celebrate his wife Cheryl's birthday with her 60th birthday tonight, and they are off for vacation. So, Jack, hope you and the family enjoy yourselves there on the Oregon coast, okay? And doesn't look like Howard Livingston or Ryan Bowles, a couple of new guys that they're recruiting and testing out. Doesn't look like they ever actually took any laps. They did not make the field tonight, Evan.
23 cars slated up for the start. 21 of them going to participate tonight. Only one finished to top the pile, and for the second week in a row, a first-time winner. First off, it's good to get one of those. We talk about that the championship was already decided, and Sean, a lot of people will take that and say, well, it's disappointing to go into the final few races without it. I think, at least on our end, we benefited because you saw guys, including the guys up there in the championship. Still, there's points going around, and it's not like you can go out there and just throw it into somebody for no reason. But because that, what everybody realistically wants is the championship has already been given away, a lot of these guys, no holds barred, they're going for it. That coupled with this Kansas Speedway, which now I'm almost a new favorite track fan of. Spectacular racing that we saw tonight. It was close quarters Talladega. I think maybe that's the term that you kind of created, and I think we should stick with that one.
Yeah. Hey, we did talk a couple times during the race about George Anzaldo and his staying out there. It did pay off for him. He did move up to 10th in points, and he has a good race next week, and Robert Bluin does show up. He can hold on to that 10th spot. Might have even a chance to get up to 9th, but I know, again, how important finishing in the top 10 in points was to George Anzaldo this year, and or for this season, and I think he's got to be pretty happy with where he wound up tonight, all things considered. But definitely a great race, and I agree with you. This track has certainly become one of my favorites here real quick. Not having a whole lot of experience here, I can tell you after running it here the past week with these guys and watching this race tonight, I'm going to be running it a lot more. That was fun.
And now we look forward. Again, the championship battle has already been determined, but it's almost an open window from 4th all the way through pretty much everybody else that shows up in this championship hunt. You thought that they had, again, we said the close quarters Talladega. We're going to be open quarters Talladega next week. High speeds, you can do a lot of maneuvering, but they're going to have a lot of racetrack to play with. The season finale in 1 week's time, live at the Global Sim Racing channel from the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California, site of the championship weekend for the IndyCar Series for the past couple of seasons prior to this 2015 campaign. And if you liked Kansas, Sean, you're probably going to love Fontana.
Yes, you will. Man, they will definitely get at Fontana. A great track to end the season on. Will be wicked fast there. There will be cars all over the track making moves like you saw tonight, but with a lot more room to do it and pretty much flat out speeds. We're not going to see much give there at Fontana, and these guys battling for those few positions in the top 10. Make no mistake, they will be battling next Wednesday night. We saw a great one tonight, though, and ready to put a pretty bow on it there, Evan.
It was an exciting one, nonetheless. You heard who the drivers had to thank, and equally as so, we can thank a lot of people as well for allowing us to bring us the coverage that we love to do and that you love to watch week in and week out. The sponsors here at the LionHeart Series, first off, Justin Laxton and Overdrive Graphics, John Downing and Sim Posters. Cannot thank them enough for the support that they give this LionHeart IndyCar Series. Check them out, support them. For Overdrive Graphics, go to Twitter at OverdriveGRFX or take a Google search on Overdrive Graphics as well. Same deal, Sim Posters, John Downing, Justin Laxton. They are what make this series tick. And for them to be sponsors and to be out there racing, it's always fun to see them on the racetrack. And especially tonight, John had a great run, came home with a P4 tonight. Need to thank the people, though, that make the streaming equipment, behind the scenes stuff here at the GSRC work nice and smoothly. iRacing.com, motorsport simulations for this fantastic platform that we have to race on. XSplit for free and easy live streaming and recording. The Audio Technica Corporation and Avra Media USA. The LionHeart administration team, public relations, George Ansaldo, league admins, Joe Hassert and Justin Laxton, organizing the practices throughout the weeks, the races that we did not have the ability to cover that these drivers raced on. They again provide these drivers with a league that they can commit to and have fun in, and it leads to the racing product that you saw tonight. Additional thanks to our camera sets that, as well as always, are provided by Dougie Beard, and our music that is always provided by Eric Ekholm. Check him out online at ericekholm.com. Stay up to date with everything GSRC. Check us out online at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, through Twitter at GSR Channel, or through our Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel to get the latest news, updates, live broadcasts, and so much more. And for more on the LionHeart Racing Series, maybe coming to an end here soon, but Season 3 later on in 2015. Make sure if you want to get out on track, you make that happen. Go to LionHeartRacingSeries.com. We have one race left, but if you don't want to wait till next Wednesday evening for some racing action, Shauna, GSRC is definitely the place to be this next week.
Yes, it is, Evan. This week on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Saturday, June the 6th at 2:15 Eastern Standard Time. The return of the MX5 World Tour Series Round 11 at the Twin Ring Motegi, the East Course. Also on Saturday, June the 6th, 9:15 p.m., join Evan and myself at Bristol Motor Speedway for Round 8 of the Bootleg Racing League Outlaw Modified Series. It's going to be a fun one, folks. Don't miss that race. Sunday, June the 7th at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. The new race here for the Global Sim Racing Channel, the Absolute Beginners Nagel Cup Round 1 at Spa-Francorchamps. Join us then. That'll be Sunday, June the 7th, and then back next Wednesday, June 10th, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. The American Sim Racing Series, AMSOIL Truck Series, goes to Gateway for Round 10. That's going to be a good one. And then, when that one's over, you're going to be ready here to watch the season finale, LionHeart IndyCar Series Championship Race, Round 18 at Auto Club Speedway. It's going to be a hot one, folks. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Evan, I can't wait to make my way out to California.
All roads lead to Fontana, California. It's one of the biggest tracks, you race on a track like Michigan. Well, it has been circled not only for the fact that it's a championship, but because of the fact that it is such an amazing racetrack to toss these boys on, for them to do battle, and you are absolutely not going to want to miss the season finale in 1 week's time. However, until then, that does wrap things up here from America's Heartland, the Kansas Speedway. We're done for the evening. The Hollywood Casino 150 in the books. And congratulations once again to Team Nailed It on their second back-to-back 1-2 finish on the year. Dan Guerin taking home the win this evening. On behalf of the Global Sim Racing Channel broadcast crew this evening, bringing you our live coverage this Wednesday night. On behalf of myself, Evan Pasoko, Sean Ambrose, and our director, Amjed Yaman, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the action. Please be with us in 1 week's time. You're not going to miss it. Until then, good night from Kansas, and we will see you championship race time next week, same time, same place in Fontana, California. Good night.